thought the future would be cooler. I thought the future would be cooler.
Okay, so we're not quite there with the personal jetpacks, the flying classrooms, or the injectable knowledge pills yet, but we here at the Learning Futures Group do think that the future of workplace learning is definitely getting cooler. Hence, our podcast, Learning is the New Working. Our goal is to help leaders and organizations build learning-focused work cultures that help them transform, innovate, and build trust with their employees and customers. My name is Chris Pirrie. I'm the CEO of the Learning Futures Group and your host for what I hope will be a brilliant set of conversations with leading-edge practitioners in this field.
I thought the future would be cooler.
Today, I'm thrilled to have the opportunity to share my conversation with you with Dani Johnson, a friend of mine who's the co-founder, along with Stacey Sherman Garr, and principal of the RedThread Research Group. RedThread Research are a human capital research and advisory firm formed in 2018 that leads with listening and is deeply rooted in the business of talent. For my money, RedThread Research are the go-to people for research on talent management, learning, diversity and inclusion, and the technologies that support them. More importantly, they describe themselves as truth seekers.
I thought the future would be cooler.
Dani spent the majority of her career writing about, conducting research in, and consulting on human capital practices and technology. Before RedThread, she led learning and career research practice at Bersin by Deloitte and led Human Resource Competency Studies with University of Michigan and the RBL Group. This resulted in her co-authoring a book, HR Competencies, Mastery at the Intersection of People and Business, and her ideas can be found regularly published online in CLO Magazine, HR Magazine, and Employment Relations Today. She's a Master of Business Administration, a Master of Science, and Bachelor of Science degrees in Mechanical Engineering at Brigham Young. I've personally worked with her in the context of the Federation of Red Cross Red Crescent, and at the design school at Stanford. I've leveraged a lot from her amazing work by Bersin, especially on the corporate learning maturity model, and her recent work on the learning technology landscape and what makes us human, which I hope we'll get a chance to touch on today.
I thought the future would be cooler.
Also helping define the future of workplace learning are this episode's sponsor, the smart folks at Intrepid Learning. They develop a powerful collaborative learning platform that empowers organizations to solve high-stakes business challenges through engaging and applied learning delivered at quality and at scale. I've worked with their technology myself, and I can confirm they're really disrupting the old-school learning approaches. They help individuals learn and improve, and organizations transform and grow. Check them out, please, at www.intrepidlearning.com. Now, let's get on with the show. Dani, welcome to Learning is the New Working.
Hey, thanks. Happy to be here.
I'm super happy to have you on the show because, I'm a big fan of your work and both the work that you're doing now with RedThread Research, but also your work in the past at Bersin by Deloitte. I'm familiar with that work, and that's been pretty influential in my thinking. So it's really great to have you on the show.
Great. That's very kind of you to say. Thanks.
We try to keep our podcasts kind of brief, under 30 minutes, if we can. The challenge here is that we got a vast surface area of your work that's very, very relevant to our audience, thinking about work and the future of work and learning at work. But I thought there's sort of three areas that we could focus on today, if you're all right with that. The first would be just data and research and how people can get the best from working with a firm or on a research project. The second would be your observations about what's been going on and what's going on today in the workplace learning space. And third, I know you're passionate about learning technology, so we want to spend some time on that one too. How's that work?
That sounds great.
Great. So let's get started. As usual, we start with a sort of fairly quick-fire round of questions to sketch a picture for our listeners of your work practice. So are you ready to go?
Am I going to be timed?
You're not going to be timed.
Right.
Dani, tell me where we're talking to you. What part of the world do you live in, and how come you ended up there?
Yeah, so I live in Salt Lake City, Utah, on a mountain. I actually grew up here and left at a dead run after grad school, and then found my way back here. It's great for a couple of reasons. First of all, if you do anything outside, hike, bike, obviously ski, pretty much anything but surfing, it's kind of a perfect place to live. And secondly, it's a really easy flight to either coast, which is a bigger deal than I wish it were, but I can get to where I need to go pretty easily.
Yeah, good point. And Silicon, a lot of startup companies in that area as well.
Yeah, I'm finding myself talking to vendors and not even needing to travel. It's kind of awesome.
That's a beautiful thing. What did you study at college, Dani?
Something completely unrelated to what I'm doing now. I actually have a master's degree in mechanical engineering, along with my MBA. So, yeah.
That's not an unusual scenario, but and I like when people bring different disciplines to any business. It's always exciting. Do you see yourself having a personal mission statement in the work that you do?
Yeah, you warned me about this one, so I actually talked about it last night. I think the one that I have is, I worked with Dave Ulrich for a little while, and he had this saying, better than yesterday, but not as good as tomorrow, which I think is kind of brilliant. You're always trying to improve where you are, but you're not regretting what you did yesterday.
I love it. Continuous improvement. And it reminds me of the Microsoft sort of mantra, respect your past, but define your future.
Oh, I like that.
Very similar, right? Cool. Okay, let's talk about what you do for a living. Let's talk about research. Why should learning leaders care about quality research?
Well, because they don't know everything, I guess, is the short answer. Learning organizations sit on the side of the larger organization a lot of times, and they can often become sort of ivory towers if they're not careful. And so getting good, high quality outside perspectives, I think, is really important to helping them stay on top of what they need to know to help the business move forward.
Cool. So one role of research in your opinion is to sort of bring different perspectives to people and help them presumably solve problems and be more relevant, right?
Oh, for sure. I think that's probably the most important aspect of research.
Then can you tell us a little bit about RedThread research? Why did you set up RedThread research, I think, last year, and what types of service do you offer? And maybe you could talk a little bit about how your approach is perhaps different from what you've done before and other firms that are out there.
Sure, yeah. So my partner, Stacia Gar, and I, we both came from Bersin, and about a year ago, we decided to start our own little research and advisory firm. We make money in basically three ways. The first one is advisory work. So we talk to organizational leaders and help them with their strategies and look over things that they would like an outside opinion on or a sounding board on. We also do the same thing for a tech vendor who's trying to understand the space. The second way that we make money is education. So we do a lot of speaking and keynotes and webinars and those types of things. And then the third way is just barely getting off the ground, but it's a membership that allows people to have full access to the research. And basically our thought process is through everything. I think one of the ways that we're different, probably the main way that we're different, is when we started this firm, we are fully aware that we do not know everything. And so collaboration is really, really important to us. And so we've built the research membership to actually be a collaboration. So it's an opportunity for people to follow a research project which hits on a challenge from beginning to end, through the lit review, through conversations with other leaders, through, the major points, all of those types of things. So that instead of just the answer at the end, which is often fairly shallow, they get the deep learning that we get when we do the research.
So let me just play that back to you to make sure I got it. So basically, if I sign up for a RedThread research project, then I'm sort of taken along, maybe with other people, maybe even from other companies.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can get in as deep as you want, anywhere from I just want to read whatever comes out of these stages of the research to I want to join the roundtables where we talk about where this research is going and why it's going that way.
And might I contribute my own data and information too?
Well, heavens, yes. If you have data, we'd love to talk to you.
A hunger for data. What kind of organizations have you found yourself working with? You said that you do work for vendors, obviously tech vendors in the space.
Yeah.
But is there any patterns that are emerging from people that are coming to talk to you?
We usually don't do well with people that are thinking really traditionally about the learning space or the space at all.
Maybe they need the most help.
Probably, but it's a hard row to hoe. I got to be honest, Chris. So mostly really forward-thinking ones, ones that are interested in trying new things and are not stuck in the 60s instructional design sort of mindset.
Great. So I think we definitely have that in common, excitement about that. But there are people that need help, and don't forget that. You've done some innovative ways. I think you mentioned that you're kind of launching a new sort of subscription or membership model. Be great if you're ready to tell us a little bit about that. But I also know that you've done some fairly innovative ways of getting funding for your research that I think might make access to this research more available to more people. Can you share some of those approaches for us?
Yeah, so obviously we both came from Bersin, which had a very large budget for research. And so we immediately needed to find out ways to make money. The way that we do the research projects is we've standardized the process. So each research project has at least 4 steps. It has a premise, this is why we think you should do, or why we should study this. The second one is a pretty in-depth lit review. The third one is the interview process, obviously, and then the results come out of that. And so those are the 4 major parts. And what we've done is we sort of opened it up to the vendors and said, okay, we are in complete control of the research agenda. You don't get to choose what's on the research agenda, and you also don't get any say in what we say. But if what we're saying resonates with you, we'd be happy to let you sponsor some of this research and some of the outputs of the research. To fund the research to get it done. So that's kind of the innovative way we're looking at it. The other thing that we're trying, which is works for some organizations and doesn't work for others, is crowdfunding. So there are vendors that don't necessarily play in the same space or compete against each other, but are really interested in the outputs of a certain research project. Sometimes they'll partner up and fund some research just to get it out the door.
And have you had success with that crowdfunding approach?
Yeah, so it's fairly new, but we have 3 or 4 projects in the next little while that'll be crowdfunded.
Cool, and people can obviously find out about those from your website. Do you sort of publish your research agenda? Yes, our research agenda is open to everybody, and on our website right now is also a survey to let us know, org leaders, to let us know what's interesting to you. We use a little conjoint analysis tool that allows you to upvote or downvote on things that you think are important and that should be researched. Cool. So I was actually just going to ask a question here about kind of whether you do projects for hire. Let's say that I'm working with a large financial services institution that wants to know more about a particular potential audience for their customer training. Can we just come to you with that sort of problem, or do you have an agenda and a set of topics that you want to focus on that, and talk a little bit about how that you set that? Yeah, the answer to that is an adamant no. We don't do research for hire, and that's for a couple of reasons. We've had some people approach us and say, "Hey, we'd like to know what all our competitors are doing." Right? No. If we do that, then no one will talk to us. Awkward. So, yeah. So our agnosticism is really, really important. And so we maintain that research agenda and don't do any research for hire. Cool. So really the best way to get engaged around your work is to sort of tune in and see what you're focused on. And if things resonate with you, then lean in as much as you want. Yeah. And if you're a leader and think that something needs to be addressed, let us know, because that's how we know what we need to be studying. We do a lot of cyber listening and a lot of talking to leaders. So if you have an idea that you think needs to be addressed, get in touch. We'd love to talk to you. And then get another gang of leaders to join in and ask for the same thing, and exactly. That will give you more juice. Got it. What, as a researcher, just how do you spend your day? What does a typical day look like for you, Dani? Who are you talking to, and what kind of work are you doing? Yeah, I don't know if that there is a typical day. I think so. This morning looked like. I had a conference call with the Red Cross. We've been doing some continual work with the Red Cross. Cool. I talked to a vendor this morning. I spent some time on a lit review. I prepped a little bit for this call. This afternoon will be mostly spent reading. I have a couple of advisory calls that I'm helping org leaders work through some of their strategic issues. So it really depends on the day, but those are some of the types of things we do. Well, your work process definitely results in some pretty very, very valuable, very cool outcomes.